and welcome to Woolgathering, a Wild and Woolens podcast. This is episode 2. Hi and welcome. And if we're being very honest, I already did this once. My phone died halfway through, and it hadn't even occurred to me to plug my phone in before doing this. But welcome. And I'm happy to try this again with you all. My name is Kristen. I am a knitter and I'm a fiber artist over in Connecticut. And this podcast is a space for me to kind of share those things that I enjoy doing, share a little bit of slow living. Slow living feels a little bit of an exaggeration right now as I am planning for my own wedding in about a week, but slow making perhaps is a better way to phrase that. And I'm here to share that with all of you all and to hopefully inspire, create community, and give you a little something to listen to while you're on your own knitting, spinning, sewing, baking journeys. I hope that you are having a lovely day and that this brings you a little bit more joy in your day. My day thus far has been really, really lovely because it is fall. We have arrived. It is so fall out today in Connecticut. I just can't even think of another adjective to describe this day thus far. I woke up this morning, I had apple butter and pecans in my oatmeal, and I went on a relatively long drive over to my seamstress, who is a little bit further out inland into kind of the countryside of Connecticut, and the drive was so good. It's definitely edging into leaf peeper season right now, and you can bet that I ogled some leaves on my drive. Kept it safe, I think, but I did ogle some leaves. And I also had sworn up and down that I wasn't going to get any pumpkins or gourds or any kind of fall decor until after the wedding. And I broke down. The car didn't break down. I broke down. My resolve. And so I did kind of drive past this lovely little farm market on my way to my seamstress, and I couldn't stop thinking about the mountains of mums and pumpkins and gourds. And so on the way back, I stopped, I caved, I got some really lovely autumnal gourds and pumpkins, not mums. I'm not a huge fan of the mum. I love the way that they look. I love passing by a farm stand and it's like Mum City, because they're so colorful and they're classic autumn colors, but I don't like them in my yard. I feel like they're a little bit finicky. I can't keep them alive. That's probably the biggest thing, is I can't keep them alive. Maybe because they're in pots. I don't grow a lot of stuff in pots outside. All of my plants are in the ground. My tomatoes, grapes, blueberries, they're all in the soil. And so I feel like that helps with obviously drainage and watering and all of that. So I can't keep a mum alive, and so I don't want a mum, but I did get pumpkins, and I'm just so happy. Just started putting them around my house, and they're making me pleased. So if you too are I'm not doing it yet, just go out and do it. Just make yourself happy. It was darling. And so I took a video. I was one of those people taking videos in the little garden market, but I'll try to insert it here somewhere. Trying to bring my technology skills up to snuff in terms of podcasting. And kind of on that note, I do want to take a moment to say thank you all so much. I have been looking for like a comfortable, long form style media to share more about my making, about fiber arts, about kind of what's bringing me joy. In the past, I've tried blogging. I've tried it like probably 3 or 4 times. And it's always been more of a struggle, kind of like I'm pushing myself to find things to talk about. Writing feels more intentional in some ways. Not that this isn't intentional, but it feels like a little bit like I have to put more thought into every word. And so it was definitely like difficult for me to keep up. So when I turned to, okay, well, let me try this video platform and tried podcasting this way, I hadn't gotten a lot of traction in like a writing format, and I didn't expect to get a whole lot of traction in this kind of format. But honestly, I loved recording the last episode. In fact, I'm recording this episode for the 2nd time and I'm still having a great time. And I also was overwhelmed by the feedback that I got. I thought maybe, a dozen people that I know would watch it. And there are so many of you out there who tuned in, who subscribed, who liked, who left comments, who engaged with the content. And I'm so grateful for all of that. It really feels like a community space, and that's what I wanted this podcast to feel like. And we're only on episode 2, so who knows where we're gonna go from here, but I think it can only go well. I think we can only go up from here. So thank you. So for this week's, I did spend a fair amount of time last episode talking about the things that I'm currently knitting, kind of catching you all up on my knitting life, because it was the first time we were chatting. And so this time I'm actually going to do less knitting, though I will provide you with a wedding sweater update, because you all might be as anxious as me to get an update on that. And spoiler alert, it's not finished, but it will be. I'm feeling like it will be. But I will give you a little bit of a knitting update, but then I'm kind of going to dive into spinning, kind of get you similar to last time where I kind of got you up to date on what's happening in my knitting life. We're going to turn a little bit to my spinning life and dip a little bit into sewing and quilting, and then wrap it up with what's been happening in my kitchen, in the baking, apple, all that kind of fun stuff front. So without further ado, the wedding sweater. Okay, so listen, I would not recommend what I've done to anyone else. And what I have done is I started too late. I ripped back multiple times. In fact, I ripped back again last week. And I'm also pretty determined to knit my own design that I had never knit before. And so that means that we are a week away from the wedding and it's not done. But I have time to knit today and tomorrow. It's the weekend now, Saturday. And there's evenings between now and the wedding. So it'll be fine. It'll be fine. I shouldn't focus on that anymore because it will be fine. I'm just gonna stress myself out. Anyway, so, of course oh no, I didn't. The needles are still in. Wouldn't that be funny if I just told you all how stressed this is and then the needles fall out? And that would have just like cherry on top. But so I'm not gonna put it on because I did show you all last week what it looks like on. It's kind of this wrap sweater. So, but I have cast off the edges. I used an I-cord bind off on the bottom, and I cast on and am knitting. Well, maybe I do need to put it on for you guys to really see it. I'm gonna put it on just one moment. Okay, so I did then cast on, let's get a good position here, the button band. It's not really going to be a button band. It is just the neck band. So I had all the way down when knitting the bodice, knit an I-cord edge, and now I'm knitting a double double knit button band. It's not a button band. I don't know what to call it. Neck band thing. Collar. Oh, yeah, you guys can definitely tell this is the second time I'm doing this now. But I'm picking up the stitches on the inside of that I cord so that the I cord really gives like a textural interest there. And this is about I would say maybe an hour and a half. What I've been doing is I'm binging Blood of My Blood, the Outlander prequel series, and doing this. The idea is that band will match the cuffs, and I'm pretty pleased with her. She fits really well. I was going for something that feels robust. I don't typically knit a lot of like really floofy, frilly things, so I didn't want that in this. I want it to have this robust feeling while at the same time having some feminine aspects. So there will be a bow, I think. One moment. There she is. I've also, since we last talked, knit just so much. Now you know why I have to binge a TV show while I'm doing this. So this is going to be part of the tie at the bottom here. And so just envision like a little bow, wrap around, and then I'm very pleased with her. Which is good that I'm talking about this right now, because actually last night as I was working on this, I told Matthew, I think I'm going to hate it. So thank you all for, even without saying anything, being the support that I needed for me to say, oh, actually, I really am going to be so pleased, so pleased with the outcome here. Sorry, I'm going to take her off now. But she's calm. Okay. Where's my jacket? Okay, sorry about that little changing situation. So that is the update on the wedding sweater. She will be done. Any encouragement, words of advice, throw them in the comments. You know I'm gonna need them. Okay, so that's my only knitting update. Obviously she's we're gonna have a little tiny knitting update in a little bit, in a minute here. But this is my main knitting update, and she's obviously my main squeeze right now, literally. So let's talk about spinning. I love spinning, and so you'll also have noticed that because last episode I did show you a project that I've been working on. It's a weekender with a crew neck. I'll show it to you again in a little bit here. With my hand spun, I have found that since I started knitting with my hand spun, I love spinning even more, because I love the feel of that finished product when it's with my hand spin. I feel like my hand spin has like a lot of energy, a lot of spring to it that I don't get in store-bought yarns. Probably because, it hasn't rested at all. I know you're supposed to rest your bobbins, but I don't even rest my bobbins. It's just like, it's got so much life to it, and that garment that has like so much oomph to it. And it makes me happy. So then that, kind of translates to like, oh, I love that finished product so much. It makes me love the process of spinning so much more. And so I thought I'd give you a little rundown of some of my finished spins lately. So my most recent finished spin is a combo spin. And I think you can see, yeah. So this is a combo spin from Lair of the Llama. That's the all 3 colorways were from Lair of the Llama. So I spun 3 different colorways separately. I didn't do them end to end, but it actually doesn't make a huge difference what I did, it turns out, because they're all like different colorways anyway. But I kind of had divided each of the braids up a little bit differently. One of them I divided into 9 pieces, one of them I divided into 3, and one of them maybe I did 6 pieces, horizontally and then vertically. So like the 9 was like 9 horizontal, and then like 3 horizontal and then 3 vertical for each of the 3 horizontal pots. I'm not sure if that made any sense, but again, it doesn't matter. They're all 3 different colorways and it's a combo spin. So, I can though speak a little bit to the color choice, because as a novice spinner, I had a really hard time figuring out color. And I still struggle with it a little bit, because, and I'll put up a series of photos here kind of like as I talk. When you purchase that fiber, the braids of fiber, it looks a certain way. When you undo the braid so that you have the whole length of fiber, it looks different. When you spin the ply, it looks completely different. And then when you ply it up, again, another iteration of these colors. And then when you knit it, it's just, every stage is different. And so I think that one of the things that I'm still growing with as a spinner is understanding how the colors are changing through each step of the process. And so I'll put up here kind of like what the fiber looked like right out of the braid, then what it's looked like as plies, as singles, and then you all just saw, but I will also throw up a picture of what it is plied together. That being said, I did start knitting it. I couldn't help it. I know I have this sweater project. I know I have a deadline on this sweater project, but I finished about 3.5 skeins on my Ashford single treadle, pretty small bobbin kind of situation. And it was so beautiful and so squishy, and I just really, really wanted to see what it would look like. So I knit up some of it. So I'll show you that. This is the newest pattern release from Andrea Mowry. It's called the Jaunty shawl. And you'll notice, because all of those color changes in the braids, you have stripes here. I just realized I told you all how I chose the braid colors, and then I didn't tell you. So let's talk about it. I'm so sorry. Sorry for it being a little scattered. And I actually though think that seeing the knitted object will help you a little bit understand how the colors ended up working together. So I started with, in my cart at Lair of the Llama, a braid of like really pink forward. I decided I wanted to be a pretty pink forward situation, and so I chose a braid that was almost entirely pink. It had a little bit of purples in it, but the pinks then ranged from like a fuchsia to like a pastel pink. And I think that the tip of this actually speaks pretty strongly to that particular braid, just because of how the colors kind of ended up working there. But from there, I then was like, okay, I know I want this to be a pink forward garment, or pink forward spin, as it were. And so I went to picking my second one, with that in mind, picking something that had a fair amount of pinks, but I also know that I wanted to add interest. I didn't want this to just be just entirely pink. I wanted to have some interest, some other stuff going on. And so I picked a braid that had a bit more of different colors in it. So it was mainly pink, but then it had a fair amount of these blues and greens in it. A little bit of an orange, a little bit of a yellow, and still keeping that pink very forward. And then from there, again, knowing that I wanted to add interest and I didn't want it to be an entirely pink shawl, because I knew it was going to be a shawl in the end, I kind of chose the third one as like out of left field. There was, I know that the braid, this particular braid that I'm talking about, it was called Cathedral, and it looks like stained glass windows, and I would definitely spin it again with a spin that's more blue forward, because this was a very blue forward braid. And from this, you can't tell that I spun a blue forward braid into this, in my opinion. It's a little bit hard to see. But it did add a lot of interest to my skein. So there's a lot of blue in it, but then there was also a little bit of pink. So this is why I chose the Cathedral Windows, because it had that kind of same type of pink that I was seeing in my other two braids. And then it had a little bit of an orange, a little bit of a yellow in it. So really tying together through the three braids, some similar colors, but you can see some of the blue happening there. And when you look pretty closely, there's a fair amount of blue happening in the spun yarn. So that's how I chose those colors. But back to the shawl. So I am knitting the new shawl pattern from Andrea Mowry. It's the Jaunty shawl. I actually originally spun this yarn thinking that I was going to knit the Traveler shawl, because I've seen so many gorgeous hand spun Travelers, and I was like, that's it, that's the one, I'm sold. But then of course she comes around and comes up with another great shawl pattern, and so here we are with a different, and I still need to knit the Traveler, but I couldn't not. It looks so squishy. I've never knit half fisherman's rib before, and oh my gosh, I wish you could come and squish it. It's so good. How half fisherman's works is on the wrong side, you just knit. And on the right side, you do knit into the stitch below, purl, knit into the stitch below. So it creates like a little bit of a doubled up fabric on that row, and it creates like a brioche level. I would consider this a brioche level of squish. And it's going to be so good for the cold months to come. The Farmer's Almanac is calling for a very cold winter up here, and that's great because I've got this little just a hug and a shawl. This pattern's also really fun because if you are new to hand spinning and you're like, is my yarn too wonky? Is it not consistent enough to knit with? This is the pattern for you. Like, yeah, I think that you do need a relatively consistent yarn to knit a sweater because you're trying to hit gauge. But for a shawl, you're not necessarily needing to hit a gauge. This shawl pattern is for all gauges, all weights, and the stitch pattern, that half fisherman's rib, can really hide a lot of imperfections if you're worried about those standing out. I will say, because I knew I was going to knit a shawl, I did not spin a very consistent spin for this. I think that my in skeins I measured, and they're anywhere from a sport to a worsted. So it's not consistent at all, but it still turns into this gorgeous fabric. And it doesn't matter how much of that yarn that you have. I think this will end up being a relatively good size shawl because I had 3 4-ounce braids go into the spin, and I do plan on using the entire spin for this shawl. But how it works is it's kind of like a recipe. You use up 45% of the wool that you've dedicated to, or the yarn that you've dedicated to the shawl, by doing these increases. So I'm on increases right now, so it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So I use 45% of my yarn on this increase side, and then I turn to doing the decreases. So I'll switch and do the point, and you use the rest of the yarn on that. So 45% of whatever that you have. It's not saying, okay, you have to have 300 grams of yarn or anything like that. It's what you have. Obviously, what you have and the weight of that yarn is going to change the size of the finished product. But it's not a pattern where you have to have a certain type of yarn in order to make it happen. And I think it's brilliant. It's brilliant for a hand spun. And of course, Andrea Mowry is also a brilliant spinner. So obviously she's designing patterns with hand spinners in mind sometimes. And this is it. This is a great one. Okay. I know we're already a little bit in here, so I'm going to go ahead and talk about some other finished spins to kind of give you a sense of what my spinning is like. And we'll go to this one next. This is, I think it's merino, and it's definitely upcycled sari silk. So I got this at the Vermont Sheep and Wool Festival. Look at those little blips. I got this at the Vermont Sheep and Wool Festival last year. It's coming up again on October 12th. I highly recommend going to the Vermont Sheep and Wool Festival if you are able. It's my favorite sheep and wool festival. It's like smaller, but it's very like local feeling. And it's how you want fall to feel, you know? And so it's October 12th this year, and I highly recommend. And I got this from a vendor whose name I'm not going to remember, but just a gorgeous solid color braid with these blips of sari silk in it. And if you're like, oh, I love that, but I'm not a spinner, I will say it turned out very similar to a yarn that I've knit with pre-spun. It's Hedgerow by Pearl Soho. I've knit a whole sweater out of Hedgerow in their red colorway, and it looks very similar. I'll say this one has a lot more color blips than Hedgerow does, but I'm very, very pleased. I spun this 2-ply. It was worsted prep, but I did spin it long draw, which is my preferred draw. This one definitely spun more short forward, not entirely short forward because I'm addicted to that long draw, and sometimes I just find myself falling back into it. But this is definitely, I would consider worsted. This, I think I would call semi-woolen. It's much airier. It's got a lot more going on with it. It stands up on its own a little bit more, and it's warm. This feels so much less dense than this, and this also has got like a lot more drape to it. So in case you're wondering how those different types of spins impact the yarn. But I have been meaning for probably 4 years now to knit myself a pair of mittens. I want a pair of red mittens so badly, and I've wanted it for years, and I refuse to buy a pair of red mittens because I can knit them in a weekend, especially if I'm doing something like worsted weight, which this is pretty close. This is probably like a light worsted. I could do that in a weekend. Why would I buy it? But then it's been 4 years and I haven't did it. This year's the year. This year we will knit a pair of red mittens out of my hand spun, and they're going to be super warm and cozy. I think probably I'll have to knit them on a smaller needle than I typically would. I just want stockinette mittens. If you have a good pattern recommendation, do throw me a comment. I think I just want it to be plain stockinette, and then because of the nature of stockinette, I think I want to knit it in a tighter gauge than I typically would knit something. Just in the way that I would knit socks in a tighter gauge, because I want them to hold up and be warm. So that's the plan with this one. Let me know if you have pattern suggestions. I've seen some really beautiful cabled mittens, but something in me, I want this yarn to shine. And I want the classic mitten feel without the cables. I'll probably make a pair of cabled mittens eventually because they are really good looking. But just stocking it for this one. And then I did show you last time, but I think I'll show you just the yarn this time. I showed you last time. Okay, I'll show you the sweater. This sweater. It is my Weekender hand spun. We looked at it a little bit last time. It's got a crew neck on it that I'm adding in because this is Weekender light. And that doesn't typically have a crew neck, but I'm taking the crew neck from the DK Weekender and editing it a little bit to put on the Weekender light. But this is what the yarn for that looks like. This is Hello Yarn. Yeah, Hello Yarn. 3 different colorways, and I bought these so long ago that I don't know. One of them is definitely a blaze, and one of them was one of their Halloween colorways. And then the other one is like armchair reading. Something about reading in an armchair. So you'll notice this is a combo spin as well. Sorry. If you're already a spinner, that probably sounded a little sassy, but if you're not a spinner and you're curious, this is also a combo spin. Just like I told you, this is a combo spin. But the 3 colorways that I chose for this were all very, very close together, almost solid. I think they were all labeled semi-solids in the shop. So there's little bits of variegation there, little bits of darker and lighter, but comes to a pretty solid looking yarn. And I don't typically knit sweaters that are variegated. I don't like a very busy sweater. Like I would never use this in a sweater. Never say never, but I don't think I would ever use this in a sweater. And so obviously when I was deciding, okay, I want to spin a sweater spin, I had to go with something that had that more semi-solid or solid look to it. And I'm really happy with how it's turning out. Like I said, I love all of my hand knit garments. So that will be, I don't think I'll be able to make it in time for Rhinebeck. I would love if I could wear my hand spun Weekender for Rhinebeck, but I think that the odds are not in my favor. Excuse me. The odds are not in my favor because I do have that whole wedding thing. And that's what I'm to finish for my wedding. So it might be what I'm working on at Rhinebeck. I'll talk about Rhinebeck at the end here. Okay, so those are my finished spins. Really quickly, let me show you my fibers. I have a bit of a fiber stash right now. Though I think some people will say, oh, it's not that bad, it's not bad. It's not terrible, but I did go to Maine a few weeks ago, and so I couldn't not go to Port Fiber. And of course, I couldn't not buy fiber at Port Fiber. So I did. I bought fiber, and here we are. And that's okay because it's all gonna get spun, and I kind of have plans for most of it, if not all of it. Okay, not all of it, but I have plans. So this is the first one I'll show you. It is an MCN merino cashmere nylon in the colorway Sea Urchin from Port Fiber. You'll notice I did briefly show it to you last time, but you'll notice it is now in 2 different pieces because I am going to be knitting 3-ply 2-way socks. This was a concept I should have taken the time to look up who came up with it, and I want to say it was Jillian Moreno, who also is the author of Yarnitecture. So if you're looking for a book that's more informative than this podcast here, Yarnitecture by Jillian Moreno is a really great book, all about spinning, all about how the colors and the plies and all of that kind of interact together to come into a yarn. And I highly recommend it if you have any interest in upping your spinning game. But I believe it was her in a magazine somewhere suggesting a 3-ply 2-way. And I think it's going to be really fun because I'm going to really see how plying makes a difference in your color. So the idea is you have divided your braid into 2 sections, and the first section, you're just gonna spin it end to end. So you're gonna do 1 single ply end to end, and then you're going to chain ply that spin. So that's keeping the colors together, right? So the orange will kind of end up being plied with the orange, the light blues with the light blues, the greens with the greens, etc. So the first one will be like that. And then the second one, you do 3 plies. So I'm gonna split it vertically into 3 strips. And then I'm going to, after I spin each of those plies, I'm gonna do a fractal spin. So the fractal spin is like, I have 3 plies, so I'm end to end, like top to bottom, and I have 3 of those. But the middle, well, for this purposes, we'll say it's the middle one. It actually doesn't matter which one it is. So instead of having them all top to bottom, top to bottom, top to bottom, the third one will actually be bottom to top. And that's how you'll apply them together. You do a standard 3 ply with top to bottom, bottom to top, top to bottom. And that's gonna change how the colors land together, right? So you might now end up with some oranges that are overlapping with some of these yellows, with overlapping some of these blues. So you're gonna get like a different progression of color through that skein than you got in your first one. And what's really cool is that you've got 2 pretty distinctly different yarns, even though they're the same colorway, they're 2 different yarns, and you can knit a pair of socks with stripes of these 2 yarns. So I'm gonna do like, I'm probably gonna do a 3x1 rib sock, and it'll be like 10 rows of the first skein, 10 rows of the second skein, back and forth, back and forth. And the stripes should be relatively distinctive because of the way that you spun the yarn. I've never done it before. I've seen other people do it, and I've loved the results because I'm not a huge like knitting a striped sock kind of fan necessarily, because I don't have a lot of loud things in my wardrobe. And I feel like this will give me a pretty subtle stripe, but like still be a striped sock. And it'll be my first pair of socks knit out of my hand spun. So it'll be my first time spinning sock yarn, which is a little bit thinner than my standard. My standard, like kind of default spin is a sport weight. So I don't think it'd be that hard to get to fingering. I also think if I end up spinning my default by accident, like you can still have a cozy pair of socks with a sport weight yarn. Like Spin Cycle, I've knit socks out of Spin Cycle and they consider themselves sport weight. I think they lean a little into like a heavy fingering, but that's neither here nor there. Like you can do socks with that. So that's that. And then I have also from Port Fiber, this darling. Ah. Okay, I will confess I have a crush on this color. I've had a crush on this color for maybe the whole year. I don't know. It's just really been speaking to me lately. It's kind of like minty blue green. And so I did buy 10 ounces of this from Port Fiber. I have no regrets. My bank account might, but it doesn't matter. I love it. And I also have 5 ounces, which is, I know it's half of this, because I was thinking about doing a 2-ply, but I can't. But I have this, which is a Cormo top, also from the Vermont Sheep and Wool Festival, and I do have the tag on it still, so it's Willistown Farms in Florence, Vermont. This is a Cormo combed top. It is 5 ounces. And it's obviously got a little bit of a different texture than this because this is merino, but I really like these colors together. I've been considering a whole bunch of different things, like maybe doing, like drafting them together. And so that would like lighten up this one. But then I was looking over just before starting this, and I have one thing here that might change my plan, because I have a whole basket of just like really fun. They're not scraps per se, but they feel scrappy. It's it was a nestlet package from Nest Fiber, and kind of like a sampling of a bunch of different types of fibers. So there's some silk in here, there's some Falkland, there's some Cormo, and I had previously done a drop spindle spin 2-ply of some of it, and it looks like this when it's spun up 2-ply. I really love it. I think I'm gonna knit this as a contrast color for a hot water bottle cover, excuse me. So stay tuned for that. That'll definitely have to be a winter project. Everybody needs their hot water bottle in the winter. But I'm pretty sure that I don't want to continue spinning all of that up as a 2-ply, because again, would it be too busy? It'd be busy. That being said, what I'm about to say is also going to be busy, because I was thinking, what if, okay, so I have this basket of all of these. I think it's, I weighed it, I think we got about 8 ounces. And then we have this, and we could do such an interesting combo spin, because I seem to be on a combo spin kick. I think that could be really fun. I don't know what I'd use the yarn for though. Maybe I would have to feel comfortable doing like a loud garment, because I think I'd want it to be a sweater. Though I did just say I still want to do a traveler, so it could be traveler shawl. Let me know if you have any thoughts on these 3. Either as a combo spin, as a parallel drafting of some sort. I feel a little guilty for getting these without having a plan, but at the same time, something is going to come of these. So let me know in the comments if you have a spin suggestion or a pattern suggestion or what have you. Okay. Let me grab a sip of my coffee. It's a bit late in the day for coffee, but I have a bit of a thing with coffee. Okay, so I'll show you one last thing from my stash, and then we'll move on from spinning. Oh, which reminds me, I meant to say, I know some people will be like, I won't harp on about my other hobbies, because like some podcasters will be like, oh, because I know you're here for the knitting or whatever. Maybe I don't know my audience well enough, and maybe they really are doing the right thing, but you know what? I'm just here to share what I like, and so you're getting a lot of non-knitting content sometimes, and that's fine for me, because this is also this platform is also kind of for me, and it's making me happy to share these things. So I apologize if you came on here expecting knitting, and you've now gotten 40 minutes of not knitting. But okay, last one, because we are at 40 minutes. These are another Nestlet pack from, I don't know if they're all gonna fit in, from Nest Fibers. Yeah, they kind of all fit in, yeah. They're so autumnal. They're so good. I think it's 2 ounces each, and we have 7. Yeah, it's 2 ounces each, and we have 7 different colors here. And I love them. I love them so much. Look at that. Oh, look at that. They're so good. So I have these, and these are my colors. Like this is it. This is what I want to be wearing all the time. So I'm very excited about them. And I think they are Cormo and silk, mulberry silk. And so what I'm planning on for these is I'm going to do them each 2-ply. I'm going to do 2-ply, and one of the ply will be the color, and the other ply is going to be gray. I don't have a gray yet, but I'm going to acquire a gray. I just saw somewhere a gray yarn that I was looking at. But so they're gonna be spun 2-ply with a gray. And then I'm going to get a fleece from Rhinebeck. I'm gonna get a hopefully light colored fleece, and do all of that like cleaning and prep and spinning. And I'm going to make a One Direction loop, a looped sweater. I'll put the link to the sweater pattern in the comments. It's a sweater that I've been eyeing for a while because I really want to have a striped sweater, but I'm noticing, like, I don't know why, but like a lot of the striped sweaters I'm seeing out there, they just don't do it for me. Like, I know I want a striped sweater, but it's just not doing it for me. So there's this pattern. It actually is like saddle shoulder. So you start and you knit out that way on both sides. And so you have the stripes kind of going across that way. And then you pick up stitches around either side of the saddle shoulder, and then you knit stripes that way. And so that's what I'm planning. I'm planning on doing like a white, beige, neutral as like the main color, and then these as the stripes. They'll be a little bit more muted because they will be in that 2-ply with the gray, but I think it's going to be exactly what I'm looking for in terms of a striped sweater, and I am so excited. Like, I can envision it in my mind, and I'm very, very excited for this sweater spin. And that also brings me to Rhinebeck. I'm very excited for Rhinebeck. I'm going to go with a couple of friends this year. I was joking a lot with my partner, with Matthew, about how it's going to be our honeymoon as we're going to Rhinebeck because it's the weekend after our wedding. But I am going to go up on the Saturday. I know that I'm going to get a fleece, which I'm very excited to do. And then just kind of like spend a little bit of time with some of my fiber friends who are going to be there. Traditionally, I haven't loved Rhinebeck as much as other fiber festivals. I've gone to the Maryland Sheep and Wool and the Vermont one, and I really enjoy those. Rhinebeck, for me, it's, you know, I'm quite introverted, and it's a lot of people. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of people. There's also a lot of commercialization. I don't necessarily love shopping. As she sits surrounded by all of the things she's purchased. So it's not always my favorite festival, but I am excited to go this year because I have friends to go with this year. And we are actually going to take like a mini moon where we're going to stay up in an Airbnb in upstate New York. And frankly, I do feel quite fortunate as a knitter to live so close to Rhinebeck that I can just kind of hop over there. It's about 2.5 hours away from where I am. And so I feel very fortunate that I get to go, and I'm very excited about it. Who knows what I'll come back with, but I will show you the fleece. I think that'll actually kind of hit that 2-week mark. So I'll give you like a haul update from Rhinebeck and also let you know where I am with all of my knitting. Okay. So that's all the knitting and the spinning and stuff. So really quickly, I wanted to show you something else that I'm very excited about, and that is a quilted vest. I am in a quilting group as well as a knitting group. Actually, one of the women who I work with runs the quilting group here in New Haven and got me to join kind of right when I started working at the museum. And so this past month we were doing quilted jackets, and I was like, I don't want a quilted jacket. I have a lot of jackets that I really like, but I do want a vest. And so I am making a quilted vest. I am also a huge fan of denim. You will come to learn this about me. So I have this lovely like linen chambray here, and then upcycled a pair of Matthew's old jeans for a little bit of detail. So it's a kind of a circle on the back, and it's getting quilted right now, and then it'll be all put together. And then I have a blue interfacing, and it's bringing me a lot of joy right now. I was hoping that it would be part of my birthday outfit this year. I love having a cute little me-made birthday outfit, but it's not gonna happen. I've got other things on my plate, but it will happen thereafter, and I probably will wear it to Rhinebeck. And yeah, so that's what I've been sewing lately. We also have a quilt show coming up. If you're in the New Haven area on the 12th and you're not invited to my wedding, sorry, there is going to be a quilt show over at the Eli Whitney Museum, and this quilt will be in it, so a little sneak peek, as well as another quilt that my grandmother-in-law gave us for our engagement a couple years ago, and she has since passed, but I feel like it's going to be really nice to be able to put one of her quilts in this quilt show that is hosted by the quilting group that I'm in. So I'm very excited about that coming up. Okay, I'm going to leave you with some food recs. I went apple picking. I'm sure a lot of you have gone apple picking or about to go apple picking. So I wanted to just drop, and I'll drop it into the bottom here, apple butter. Make yourself some apple butter. I came back with, I don't know, probably like 7 pounds of apples from apple picking. We had a really great time. My friends and I made an apple pie. It was delicious. We had made a whole thing about it. We, put apples in the salad for dinner, and I still had so many apples left. So I made apple butter. I pretty much make apple butter every year, and this year's turned out so well. Contrary to popular belief, there's no butter in apple butter. All you need is some apples. You need some spices and you need some sugar. So do 5 pints of apples, some apple cider vinegar or some lemons. I used lemons this year, but I'm very curious to try apple cider vinegar because I haven't before, and I was seeing people doing it online. So I was out when I was making the apple butter, so I couldn't do it this year. Cinnamon, nutmeg, cloves, and cardamom. Cardamom to me is so important. I love cardamom. Put your cardamom in your apple butter. And then, a little bit of salt, brown sugar, white sugar. But it's so easy. You throw it in your crock pot and you stir it every once in a while. And by the end of the day, you've got apple butter. It's so good. And then I love it on beer bread with butter. So I'll also throw a beer bread recipe down there for you all. It's kind of like my go-to quick bread. I do sometimes do a sourdough bread or like kind of like a farmhouse loaf, but yeah, it's so good. A beer bread with like a pat of butter and apple butter on top, a little bit warmed. It's really good. So I'm gonna leave you with that. Go have a delicious little fall moment. Also pairs well with coffee. And thank you for spending this time with me. I will see you next time, 2 weeks, promise. And I will share at that time the finished wedding sweater, and I'll share some pictures from the wedding too, because I'm sure I won't be able to resist. But thank you all for joining me, and have a lovely day.